Welcome to another edition of Close Mode, the Enterprise Sales Show. I'm Brian Dietmeyer, CEO of Close Strong, the home of precision guided selling. And today I'm really fortunate to be here with Mark Whitesell. And Mark has got about 30 years of experience, as I calculated it, in sales engineering, ops, sales enablement. Has been an SVP with Savient, as well as roles with Okta and RSA Security. Lots of deep background. Mark, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
So as you and I were chatting last week, you brought up something that we haven't talked about on the show, but I know some other consultants who are big on this topic, and it's enabling customers to sell for you, right? And I think that the issue's kind of been around for a while, but I feel like it's more relevant today. Do you feel like it's more relevant in today's market to enable those folks to kind of bring your proposal forward for you?
Yeah, it's a great question, a great topic that we kind of talked about a little bit, because when I think about a customer nowadays, the customers are coming to us and they've already done a lot of their research. They're not coming to us knowing nothing about the company or what the products do or things like that. They already have a pretty good idea. And I think there's a couple of different things. One, they've already done their research, but two, they're having to do more with less. And I think that's something that is a trend that's not going to go in the different direction. We're going to start hiring more people for those roles. So I think when you start looking at that and you say, all right, I've got to, if I'm looking at it from the buyer point of view, I'm trying to figure out, hey, I want to get as much done as I can. I don't have a lot of time to work with it, and I'm looking for sales reps to give me the information that I need to be able to put together things like a business value analysis, or things like what is this my ROI going to look like? How is this software actually going to help me? And then the third thing that I look at that I've seen in kind of trends now is the CFOs are getting a lot more involved than they used to be. Yeah. It used to be you'd see a CFO and they would kind of rubber stamp stuff and things like that. You're seeing the CFOs that are actually asking questions. And they're saying things like, hey, I don't even want to talk to you unless you're bringing me the ROI of this product. Like, how is this actually going to help the business? Because they have to then either explain to somebody else or put it in there the cost justification. Why exactly is this product going to help us? And so when I look at it from those three different points of view, you really come to a point where, hey, the customers are looking for you to help them sell it internally. Yeah. All the way up the chain, even from the CFO is explaining to somebody or has to document it somehow why exactly that decision was made. So this is kind of where the thought process came about, and why I thought that was a great selling model for a way to talk to the customer.
I agree, and especially with is as complex as the buys have gotten and the number of folks that are involved. To me, it makes even more sense. But it also makes me wonder. Reps, we're designed to. I'm going to sell to you, and now I have to sell to you so you can go sell to someone else. Are they ready? Are they ready for that, or what do we need to be doing, like in enablement, to give them what they need to be able to lead this new role?
Right. Yeah, I really don't think that sales reps get this model just yet. I think good sales reps do. I don't think sales reps as a whole really look at this and think about it in that sort of way. And every time I see a sales rep with a 50-slide corporate deck that they want to walk through the whole corporate deck, that's when I think they really don't understand what exactly this person wants from you. and that's where you think about, like, hey, well, how, what does this look like? What is training a sales rep to understand what this looks like? Really, I think one of the best ways is looking at doing, kind of role play exercises. Like, hey, pretend like you're going to enable me, having them think about it as enabling a customer, not selling to a customer. You're really this is really what's happening. You're enabling them to do something else. And you start to think about the customer, like, hey, this is not, I'm not selling to them. What I want to do is give them all the tools that they need to do these types of things that I talked about, like the business value. Like, how am I going to explain the ROI? Some of them may not even understand how that ROI is even calculated and what types of ways did the CFO expect to see this. Maybe the first time that they're buying software on behalf of the company, they just don't even know what that process looks like. So I think when you become experienced and you enable a seller by doing those things, it really helps. It helps the customer understand the process, to understand your process. You get to learn their process a lot better, because hopefully they're going to be interactive there. And I think I think explaining it from an enablement point of view, like shifting the mindset, like when you're training sellers and you're trying to enable sellers, enable them in that mindset is, hey,
Yeah.
this is what you're trying to do. Forget about the corporate deck. They've already seen it. They know. They're not coming to you blindly. They know exactly what your company does. They've probably already read Gartner reports and stuff like that. Because if you're talking to them, they've already done these things. So they don't really necessarily want to hear the stuff that I know the marketers out there are like, well, I really want to put my corporate deck slides in, but at the end of the day, they just want to hear the things they need and have the ability to present back the ROI up the chain so that they can actually get their product purchased and installed.
It's a different mindset for the materials, right? So if we're building materials that are designed for reps to be able to sell, and now it's something we're handing off to a customer, in one sense, it's got to be super simple and clean, I'm thinking, and almost error proof, like a walking deck that's like, Mark, I'm going to give this to you and you can't screw it up. Just walk through here. It is a different mindset, isn't it?
Yeah, I think too, when you look at one of the and I'll mention a product name here that I like, a product
Mm-hmm.
called Salio. I really like Salio because what it enables you to do is have the customer demo your product for you to somebody else. And when I look at things like that, I think about, hey, if you can get to that point, like if you're I'm selling you software and I can show you how to demo our product to somebody else, you're going to do that. You're going to show it and you're going to walk through it and you're going to say, wow, this is so easy. I learned this in just a few minutes and I was able to now show the product to other people. And I think that's kind of what the holy grail of where you should hope to be as a seller, to get to where you can do that for customers. But I think that enablement model where you make it look very easy and make it easy for them,
Yeah.
like you want to find out, hey, what are people asking you for in the type of format that you need to push this stuff back to them? Let me do that for you.
Yeah.
Let me put all this together in that exact format, and then give that to them. I think one of the things that I like to say is that your customers are inherently lazy in that they don't want to do extra work, especially
Yeah.
on your behalf. Even partners, part of the same way, partners that you're going through, partners, they don't want to. If your product's difficult to sell, they're not going to sell your product for you. You to make it easy for them, they make it easy for the customer, and I think that works out really well. And I think using products that make it easy to show the product, make it easy to explain the ROI and things like that, just go a long way.
Yeah, and I'm thinking too. Like you talked about ROI, for example, or product demo, and this is a bias of mine, so I'm leading the witness a little bit. I feel like customers in my history, they're terrible at making decisions, right? So in fact, that's why no decisions on the rise and that sort of thing. And I had someone a while back say to me, customers are like veterinarians. There's a different animal walking into their office every day, right? They're buying something different.
Right.
Where we're like spinal neurosurgeons. We've seen this software sourced 1,000 times maybe, and I feel like one of the areas of customer enablement that you're talking about is providing that decision support, not necessarily how to buy my stuff, but how to buy this category. I'm wondering what your thoughts are about that.
That's a great point too. When you think about the best sellers that the best sales rep that you've ever come across, like what are they? They all have something in common. That thing in common is that they can really relate with the customers really well. And when you talk about relating, that means, hey, I'm not coming in with this one thing and I'm going to sell you this. Like, I want to be your trusted advisor. There's that word, the whole trusted
Yes.
advisor.
Yeah.
That concept has been around for a long time, but there's a reason for that. The great reps that I know all have really good relationships with the customers. And that's something that when the customer feels like, hey, this guy is not coming here or girl, not coming here just to sell me this one product and get out the door. But hey, they're trying to explain the whole market as a whole. Like, let me show you how to do business value on any product you're looking at.
Yes.
Or
yes.
any type of concept. That's the one where that guy is going to call you again when he's got another project, because he said, hey, last time this guy came around, he explained the whole market to me, where the market's going, things like that, and the directions and stuff. Yet again, it comes all back to the enablement. You're really trying to think about your customers as somebody you're going to enable with the information they need, whether it's to buy your product or whether it's to understand the market or whether it's to understand what the business value could be to them, where maybe you're selling in a new market altogether. Just explaining that, hey, this is the business value of this complete shift. When I was at Okta, we sold something that was completely different. I came from RSA where everything was on-prem and went to Okta where everything was in the cloud. And at that
Yeah.
time, early on at Okta, people were like, oh, who's this company that sounds like a vegetable that's coming in trying to sell me this product and move all of my stuff and
Yeah.
trust them with everything in the cloud? I mean, this is really what it was like. But when you think about, there was a lot of enablement that had to happen to the customers just to be able to explain, hey, it's better in the cloud, and this is why. Like this
Yeah.
is why your ROI is going to be better. This is why you could do more with less, and those sort of things. So I think that's a really important topic. So it's a great question. I think that's something that you really need to look at from that point of view too, and say, hey, what is the best way for me to enable this customer with all the information they need to make the right decision, whether it's us or not.
Yeah, as we're talking, if I were designing this, I mean, I'd look at the buyer journey, right, and say at each step, whether it's ROI or it's demo or it's decision support, what are the tools that we can be building for them? And I asked you earlier, are reps ready? And you answered the same way I feel, probably not.
Yeah.
The other thing I wonder if they're ready for is we've heard about executive sponsors and coaches, but this is someone you need to recruit and develop, right? So I feel like that before you can even give them the tool to go take forward for you, right? Do you think they're ready for that? Do we need to get them ready for it?
Yeah, that's a good. I really like that term, develop. Like I'm trying to develop a customer, not necessarily sell to them, and that's
Yeah,
something that's a really great. I'm gonna keep that and use it again another time. but I like that. I'm trying to develop a customer base, and
yeah,
that's really important. And you're trying to do that not by explaining your corporate deck, because they really don't care about that as much as as what exactly value you can bring for them. And so I think that's a really good way to look at it, is developing. And I don't think a lot of reps really do that sort of thing and think about it that way.
yeah. It's and I'm going back to something you said a moment ago about sort of I'll paraphrase. It's like it's not how to buy mine, but how to buy this category. And it just struck me that that's the long view. That's the right way. That's the right relationship. And it's Jim Dickey, one of our advisors, and a lot of folks know him in this space. Jim said to me a while back, it's becoming less about what you're selling and more about how you're selling. And that keeps popping into my mind when someone says, wow, you said, I remember this person because they came in and kind of taught me how to view the category.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's exactly right. It's funny. I've got a random a client that I dealt with a long time ago. And me, this guy still have barbecue, every so often. There's somebody I haven't sold him a product in a long time,
Yeah.
but we got to be such good friends because I explained how the whole market was going to work for him a long time ago. This is a few companies back, and I think that's something that you really try and look for. Again, I go back to where I said the best sales rep I've ever known were really this whole consultative development type resource for the customer. And when the customers look at you as a resource, like, hey, this guy is not just a salesperson, but they're actually going to give me content that I can use, something that's going to be valuable for me in the whole process. Because you
Yes.
all know they're going to have to evaluate somebody else. Everybody wants to be the person to supply like unsolicited RFP questions. I love doing that for customers. You send them an unsolicited RFP, they're going to use your questions 90% of the time, which is always the best case scenario because chances are they haven't written one of those. And so you think about that again, it's just an enablement tool, an unsolicited RFP that already has all the questions that somebody in your industry is going to ask. Is perfect because then, like I said, they don't want to create them. No one's going to sit there and say, well, I'm not going to use this guy's questions, even though I just read them all. I'm going to pick different ones. That's a really important, like you said, it's a tool. It's another tool. You're going to give them a bag of tools to use, whether it's the ability to demo your product, whether it's the ability to create RFP questions that they should be asking. And maybe there's a lot of, obviously, if you give them the questions, you can lay traps for your competitors as well.
Yes.
But I think
Yep.
that's important that you open their eyes to what they should be asking. And again, it all goes back to, hey, how am I enabling this person to say the right things, ask the right things, and then use those tools to sell to somebody else. the CFO or whoever else.
Yeah. Well, it's, as we're talking, there's this theme of, at least for me, of moving from selling my thing to moving from helping you source stuff in this category, which is a really different role. And I think about some evidence of that. And I didn't realize until we spoke, like we do some of this. We ask for access to do a diagnostic of current state, desired state. And the pitch for that is, even if you don't choose us, you're going to be able to evaluate whatever solution you choose against your current and desired state and see if it's filling those gaps. So I just realized that we do that. And to the point you made a moment ago, I was talking to a potential customer the other day, and he was talking about this decision matrix thing, that one of his competitors had done that, had given the client a weighted attribute decision matrix to say, this is how you choose me, my competitors, whoever. And the sales lead I was talking to was like, I was screwed at that moment. Even though it was like a category matrix, they had that guy's matrix in front of them. And yeah, I'm beginning. I mean, I've always agreed with this notion, but I'm getting more bought in as you and I are talking, because there's some evidence that it's a
Yeah.
differentiator.
Well, I like the business value assessment tool as well. That's
Yeah.
something that if you give somebody a tool that they can then use that, where you're actually saying, all right, input your information. What are your costs for this? What are your costs for that? And input that and come out with a business value for each one of your use cases is huge, because, like you just said, you saw it firsthand where somebody said, "Oh, a competitor brought me this tool and left that for me to use." That's something that I think is huge too. And there's some really great companies out there now that do a tremendous job at kind of the online business value model, where you can input, like Ecosystems is the one that comes to
Yes.
mind. That's got a great tool for allowing a web-based entry of those type of things, where you can say, all right, hey, use this for me, use it for somebody else, but hey, now you have a way to compare, and now you have a way to enter in your different variables that would make the difference in the end. I think that's huge.
So I wonder, my last question for you. We've talked a little bit about salesperson readiness, right? And even, is enablement ready to enable the salespeople and then get them ready? I'm wondering now
Yep.
about sort of customer readiness. Is your perspective that customers are asking for these things more often, or do we need to lead them more often to saying, eh, I have this capability for you?
What happens that I've seen is that they start out generally. Well, I guess it also depends on the experience of the person at the customer side, like how long they've been doing this. But a lot of times you'll go to them and they're not necessarily going to know that someone above them is going to ask for these sort of things. Like, they're not
Right.
going to realize the CFO is going to ask for these documents. And what situation you don't want to find yourself in is, you pitch a product, you describe it, you do all these things, and then later on down the road, they find out that they needed all these different ROI metrics and things like that, and business value metrics and all that stuff. And then they kind of blanketly ask everybody for it. This is why you want to lead with that
Yeah.
sort of thing. You want to develop them into what you want them to be. You want them to
Yeah.
be your champion. And by giving them the things up front and say, hey, your CFO is likely going to ask for this in this format. This is what this ROI looks like. This is exactly how you can explain this. And then here's a tool that you can compare everybody else with, and then
Yeah.
and see what that looks like. So I think that, to go back to the original question, some are and some aren't. I think in general, it's probably not a lot of the customers are enabled with the right tools, and understand what exactly
Right.
that's going to look like, and end up getting blindsided way later in the sale than you want that to happen. And so,
Well,
you know,
yeah, and you make me, when you talk about timing, you make me think of like the teeing up of this idea. And again, going back to some of my own experience, customers are so used to being pitched that when we first started, like moving to sort of, we're doing like category consulting, whatever the heck we want to call this thing, customer enablement, that we
yep,
found that we had to sort of signal to the customer up front, okay, 4 of you are going to be on a Zoom call with us next week. And we found that people were showing up expecting a pitch, and then when we didn't do it, even though they hate pitches, they were somewhat frustrated. So we even had, it gets down to that granular level detail of saying, this is what's going to happen on this call next week, just let you know before I show up, because people
right.
shockingly disappointed.
Yeah, it's true. I think that there's certain expectations that are out there now. Customers, they're beaten down from partners pitching, everybody's pitching, everybody's got all these products. They're being pitched every which way. If you go to conferences, you're pitched with 1,000 different things. And I think there's a little bit of overload. And this is one of the
Yeah.
reasons why I think leading this from the sales engineering group instead of the sales group, people already have their guard down. And I think
Yes.
there's a lot of people that are in that interact with sales engineers differently than they do sales reps. And so therefore they're more open to taking information from sales engineering and taking that information and treating it more of like a resource so they can reuse that for something else. I think it really opens up the door for things like the ability for the customer to demo the product that you're trying to sell them. And
Yeah.
that's something that showing it easy, making it look easy is always key. And
Yeah.
the best way to make it look easy is to have the customer be able to show the product themselves. and so I think they're a lot more open to that from a sales engineer than from sales reps. But it's something that they should both be working hand in hand to have the same type of delivery method and model, and I think that'll work really well.
Yeah, I agree. You've been super generous with your time. I know, in fact, you're a pretty busy guy. You've got a lot of irons in the fire. So
Yeah.
yeah, this is not a small shift, and so it's really fun to talk about when you get into the execution of this. It's not a small shift, so it's fun to talk about. And I also think it's unbelievably relevant and current with what's happening in the market right now. So I really appreciate you bringing this to the table and highlighting some of it. So thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Brian. I really appreciate the time and the ability to do this. You could tell I'm passionate about it. I love doing this sort of thing. So thank you.
Thanks.